Hey, everybody, you're listening to West 4th and Goal, a podcast devoted to high school football fans in north central Ohio. I'm your host, Kurt Conrad, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Noah Jones. And Noah, we're kind of running out of football season here. It's already week 8, and things are starting to get interesting. Conference races are heating up, and the playoff picture is beginning to come into view.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's always exciting when you get close to Thanksgiving and get me a little bigger around the belly.
Playoff invitations will be handed out the Sunday following week 10. And right now, I think there's 6 teams in the area that rank in the top 8 in their respective region, and that's you got to be in the top 8 to play a week 11, and we got 6 teams that could potentially be there. The top 8 teams in each region qualify. There's 28 regions in the state. 4 teams host a regional quarterfinal, and after that, playoff games kind of shift to neutral sites until the state championship games, and those are all in Canton at the recently renovated Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. The first round begins November 2nd, or that weekend, and after last year they played all the playoff games on a Friday night. It was a disaster as far as for sports writers it was a disaster because there's not enough bodies to go around when everyone's playing on Friday night. We can only be so many places. So they're going back to playing on Fridays and Saturdays both this year, which is good news for guys like me. I'm not sure which divisions are on which night, but we'll find out as we get a little closer to playoff time. Last year, we had 7 area teams make the playoffs. 4 of them won first-round games. We had 2 teams reach the regional finals, and one of them, Shelby, advanced to the state semifinals. So it's an exciting time of year, that's for sure. This week's guest is on a team that's currently outside the playoff, but they're knocking on the door. So we'll find out more what happens here for them in the coming year, or in the coming few weeks here. But before I introduce him, I just want to take a moment to thank Two Cousins Pizza, the official pizza of West 4th and Goal. In addition to the best pizza in town, Andy McIntyre and his team at Two Cousins offer everything from appetizers and salads to foldovers, subs, and stromboli. So whatever you're hungry for, there's a pretty good chance you'll find it at Two Cousins Pizza. Give Andy a call at 419-522-2211 or stop by the shop at 103 North Main Street. It's Two Cousins Pizza, the official pizza of West 4th and Goal. And like Andy McIntyre, today's guest is a Mansfield Senior Tyger. He is the first offensive lineman that we've had on the show, and he is part of Mansfield Senior's wildly talented junior class. Today we welcome in a Division I college prospect, Anthony Hawkins. Anthony, thanks for coming down and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, earlier in the week when I talked to Chioke Bradley, Mansfield Senior's coach, about having Anthony on, I said, "Can you give me Anthony's phone number?" And he said, "Anthony." He was a little confused, and I thought that was unusual. But Anthony, they've been calling you Toot for a long time. I guess he didn't. He probably hadn't called you Anthony in a while, huh?
Yeah, I can't even remember the last time he called me Anthony.
Well, tell us a little bit about that nickname. Where did it come from?
Oh, well, it started when I was little. I mean, I couldn't really tell you, but I'm pretty sure my mom, they've been calling me everyone since I was young. So, I mean, it's pretty just stuck with me along the way.
Right on. Now, you're listed on Mansfield Senior's roster as 6 foot and 270 pounds. I've seen you listed online at 6'2" and 255. Look, can we get it nailed down? What are the real measurements? I mean,
well, I'm definitely taller than 6 foot.
It seems like you're a lot taller than 6 foot.
But yeah, I'm about 6'2", and I'm 260, not 270.
Right on. Does that change much during the season? I mean, is that a comfortable spot for you? I mean, I know you're a basketball player too. Do you lose weight during basketball season? How's that work?
Yeah, because we don't really lift a lot of weight, so it's pretty much strictly just all running. So we lose a couple pounds during basketball.
Okay. Now we had Clay Caudell on earlier in the year, and Clay's a classmate of yours at Mansfield Senior. He's one of those guys in the junior class. I've been on the beat covering Mansfield Senior for 20 years, and I don't remember a class ever being this talented. What's it like going against those guys every day in practice, and how does that make you better, I guess?
I mean, they're all obviously really good, so you have to really bring it every day in practice going against these guys. I mean, they're just really tough, and you just come out and watch. It's practice gets really tough sometimes.
Yeah, I was there yesterday, and it seems like, I mean, there's you guys get after it pretty good. It seems like. I mean, is that how it is every day? I mean, do you get after it like that?
Yeah, pretty much. The coaches, they push us really hard, and it's fun just competing against each other like that. It just really competitive.
I would think that that only makes you better when you get to Friday night. You're probably seeing as good a competition in practice every day as you are on Friday nights, huh?
Yeah, it definitely makes the games a lot easier.
Right. Now you and Clay, Ben Miller, and Tyler Gross, you guys all came in that class, and you started as freshmen. You're closing in on 30 career starts already, and you still got your whole senior year ahead of you. What is that? I mean, how valuable is that experience? I mean, what's the chemistry like for you guys up there?
It's honestly really good. We're like family now. We've been together for so long. It started since we were about 4th grade playing football together,
right?
And we've been with each other.
And Ben, I think I did a story on him a couple years ago. He was a St. Peter's student originally, but St. Peter's doesn't offer football, so he was allowed to play football at the school district he lived in, which was Mansfield Senior. Has he since transferred over to Mansfield Senior?
Yeah, he transferred last year.
Okay.
He came in last year.
And then I think Clay got there in about the 8th grade? He came over from Ontario, is that right?
Yeah, him and Sid came in our 8th grade year.
Yeah, and Sid was Mansfield Senior's quarterback the last few years here. Having that much experience, I mean, do you get a feel for what everyone's doing without, necessarily having to verbally communicate? I mean, can you kind of sense what everyone's about to do?
Yeah, coaches call it just being a football player, it's really all mental, not as much really physical. But, yeah, it's pretty much like we don't really have to communicate because, we really know what they're doing and things like that.
Right. Now, you and Tyler, I think, are the only two-way starters in terms of the linemen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Do you like playing offense better than defense, or defense better than offense?
Well, I like defense better than offense.
Are you is that what you think? I mean, there are some Division I schools interested in you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are they looking at you more as a defensive lineman or as an offensive lineman? Or
the defense.
Is it a tackle? Is that what they have in mind for you? Do you like the physicality that comes with being up there? I mean, the reason I ask is that, and we'll get to it a little bit more in depth later, but you missed a game against Lexington a couple weeks ago, and it seems like they were able to kind of take advantage. It seemed like that's not the case when you're in there. It seems like you're a physical presence. I mean, do you enjoy the physicality of the game like that?
Yeah, I love the physicality. I mean, it's pretty just fun playing down there.
Now, and it's kind of hard to ask, at the risk of asking kind of a goofy question. If you were lined up against yourself, how would you defend against you? I mean, is there things that you learn as a offensive player that translates to the defensive side of the ball? Does that make sense?
For me, I like defense. So the best way to become a great defensive lineman is to be a pretty good offensive lineman. So I really try to counterbalance that, and try to counterbalance it and work on moves that I would usually do myself.
Sure. I was going to say, I mean, I've talked to guys a lot about that, and there seems to be some things that translate, I guess. We talked earlier in the season to some kids who are quarterbacks and defensive backs, and they say, they pick up things, from the defensive back perspective that they use as quarterbacks. They know where the safety might be because they play safety on the other side of the ball, that sort of thing. Now, you guys all came in as freshmen, and you're starting, and you're blocking for the best back in Mansfield Senior history, who was Brian Benson, who rushed for 4,600 yards. That his senior year, your freshman year, I think he was a 2,000-yard running back. Are there things that and Brian, I've talked about Brian before. He's probably the hardest working kid I have ever seen at Mansfield Senior.
Definitely.
I mean, he sprinted on the field, he sprinted off the field, he sprinted to get a drink of water. It didn't matter where he was going fast. Are there things you learn or you pick up from watching a guy like him?
Yeah, I picked up a lot of leadership from him. He was one of the guys that even if we were down, he was always picking our heads up and telling us to keep fighting and keep going.
Is that a pretty? I would imagine as a freshman, I mean, things are probably happening pretty fast for you guys out there. I mean, your heads are swimming. I mean, is it good to have some kind of a calming influence, I guess, like that?
Yeah, he kept us pretty level out there.
Right. Now, as a sophomore last year, you had the good fortune to block for a guy who's playing in the Big Ten. Well, he will be playing in the Big Ten. He's a redshirt this year because he had tore his ACL last basketball season. We're talking about Jornell Mans. Watching him do what he did at that level. I mean, is that something to aspire to? I guess. I mean, do you want to get to where he's at now? Or
yeah, definitely. He made it a long way with Minnesota. That's a pretty good school to go play for.
For sure, Big Ten's always, you can't complain about that.
Absolutely. I mean, right now they're kind of not in that Ohio State, Michigan State tier, but Wisconsin's in there too, of course. But they're kind of
national attention.
They're kind of in that next group, and they have a coach, PJ Fleck, who is he's a hot commodity in terms of coaching goes. So I would imagine, they're building something, and when we had Jornell in here, he was excited to be a part of that. I mean, I don't know if you remember that last year.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Yeah.
But he was super excited to get up there, and he had even talked about graduating early because he wanted to get up there and get started a little earlier. In hindsight, he probably wishes he would have now because he wouldn't have been around for basketball and tear that ACL. That said, though, I mean, there was no guarantee that he was going to be starting as a freshman up there anyhow. It's still the Big Ten.
Likelihood's always pretty low.
And I've interviewed enough kids over the year who think they're going to go in and make an impact right away, and that's not always the case. I mean, sometimes you need to go there, and I mean, I would imagine the difference between high school football and college football is like the difference between checkers and chess. I mean, there's a pretty significant jump there. Is that something you're prepared for? I guess. I mean, it's going to be a lot more difficult here in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's something I really think about a lot. Like, it's definitely going to be more physical, bigger guys to go against, and better competition. So to prepare my body for that kind of play is really a major goal for me.
Right.
How does getting to block for someone like Jornell, who is playing at Big Ten speed and caliber, how does that help you prepare to play in D1 as well?
Well, yeah, like, he was another guy he was a great leader, and he really, led us through some times when it got tough. But blocking for a player like that, it was fun as well, just getting to see him do some of the things that he did with my own eyes on the field.
Does the speed of the play change when he's behind or when he's the one taking the ball? Like, do you have to get set faster because he's significantly more quick than maybe a not D1 caliber athlete?
Definitely. As Coach Choke will say, you got a Maserati behind you. So
so you better open that garage door.
Yeah, so you better get your guy out the way and get going.
Gotcha. Cool.
Let's put Toot on the spot. If you were starting a team and had to pick one running back from Mansfield Senior, would it be Brian Benson or Jornell Mans?
Man. Honestly, for that, I will put Toledo at running back, and then with that, you can always put Jornell at wide receiver. So
yeah, and Toledo is Brian's nickname. And Jornell really was kind of playing out of position last year, right? I mean, he's not necessarily a running back, but that's just what you guys needed him to do last year, and he did it remarkably well. I'm not sure. I think he may have broken the single season record for touchdowns, but yeah, I would think that.
Didn't he score a touchdown a game?
Oh, more than that.
Isn't that is that like a? I mean, is that normal? I just don't know much about high school football.
For high level guys, I mean, guys that get a lot of carries and stuff, it's not unusual. I think he was actually closer to 30 touchdowns last year, actually, which is in 11. They played 11 games because they made that first round of the playoffs. But so that's averaging more than 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
You're doing a job.
Yeah.
So last year, you guys, advanced to the. You share an Ohio Cardinal Conference championship. You share it with Ashland and Worcester, and you advance to the playoffs. You lose in the opening round to Bay, but what is playing in a playoff game? I guess what is the difference between the regular season and the postseason football? I mean, is it significantly more physical? Is it faster? The only reason I ask, I was a basketball player in high school, and I always remember that once you got into the tournament, it was just that much more intense. I mean, basketball games were because there was so much more sense of urgency. I mean, it's win or go home time. So I mean, is it kind of like that in football too?
Yeah, the intensity is a lot higher in terms of that. Everybody's playing for something now. It's not just a regular game anymore. Like like you said, it's win or go home.
Right.
So everybody's playing 110% out there and going really hard.
Is it a? I mean, you guys all started as freshmen, and it's probably at that time it seemed like you're going to play high school football forever. All of a sudden you're more than halfway through your junior year. I mean, is there a greater sense of urgency for you guys?
Yeah, our time is coming slowly. When just a couple years back, it seemed like it was so far away, but it's definitely coming fast at us. So next thing you know, we'll probably wake up one day, we'll be ready to graduate.
Yeah,
so.
And we talk to guys all the time now about that, and it's they always tell us it's.
You'll miss it, man. I think I told the Pittman last week that I think we were talking about that too. You'll miss it for sure. You'll miss having to go to school and hang out with your friends and pay attention in class. It's a good time in reflection.
And high school football is just so much more intimate. I mean, when you're going to go potentially play Division I college football, and the stands will be filled with 50,000 people that you probably never met and never will.
Right.
I mean, on Friday nights at Arlen Field, you look up in the stands, and there's a lot more people that up there, huh?
Yeah.
So you guys, you guys had you were a playoff team last year. You had a bunch of guys back from that team, and you start the season 2-1. But then you lost three games in a row for the first time since I think 2014. That included a loss to Lexington that was a lot more one-sided on the scoreboard, I think, than the actual game. I mean, you guys had 2 touchdowns called back. You had a punt block when you only had 10 guys on the field, I think. So a lot of things went wrong that night. But I mean, losing 3 straight at Mansfield Senior is a little unusual. I mean, where were you guys mentally, I guess, after that? I mean, is that weigh on you guys a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely did. That was at the point we were like kind of trying to find ourselves and get back to playing Tyger football. But I mean, we held it together,
right?
And we just kept our heads up and kept pushing.
So that brings us to last week, and you guys went over to Ashland and came away with some people would say an upset, a 26-21 win at Community Stadium. And I really thought you guys offensively, you really found your identity last week. I think you rushed for almost 300 yards. That included a 16-play drive that covered 98 yards and took 8 minutes off the clock at the end of the third quarter into the fourth. I mean, you guys are kind of a power run team. You're a double tight end, 2 running back power run team. I mean, is that kind of am I reading that right?
Yeah, a lot of our formations is based off of that. So we try to get in those and put all our power up front and get going for those guys in the back behind us.
Now, I would imagine as an offensive lineman, that's an offensive lineman's dream, right? To line up and play smash mouth football?
Yeah, just block till you can't block anymore, really.
Right. And Ashland came back in that game and took a 21-19 lead. But you guys marched down. I think you got the ball back with about 3.5 minutes left. Excuse me. And you marched down the field. You scored the game-winning touchdown on a Angelo Gross touchdown with about 30 seconds left. I mean, what did you learn about? You guys have a quarterback who transferred over from Ontario, and Cam Todd. He had to sit out 5 games. He finally played his first action was against Lexington. I mean, what's that dynamic like having a new quarterback come in like that? I mean, and a guy from another school, and he has to sit out half the season. Is it tough to build chemistry there? Or what's that whole dynamic like?
Well, it was different losing Sid last year and having a new quarterback come in this year, but I mean, really, honestly, chemistry wasn't really an issue coming in. I mean, from day one, he just came in and he was family automatically. So it really wasn't a problem playing with him.
Yeah, and my nephew was a high school football player over in Ashland County at Hillsdale, and we went to a couple camps, and you guys were there, and Cam was always. I mean, he came right up and introduced himself. It seems like he's a really good leader. Is I guess my point. I mean, is that kind of the impression you got from him?
Yeah, he's definitely a good leader. He's also one of those guys who just stays on us to keep focus and stay humble and things like that. I mean, he's a good guy.
Right. Now, I mean, the Ashland game drew some attention for circumstances that had nothing to do with football. There was a box of bananas left in Mansfield Senior's locker room before the game. Ashland officials said that those were a gesture of goodwill from the cross-country team, which uses the visitors' locker room that locker room at Community Stadium. Mansfield Chioke Bradley said, you guys were kind of offended by that, saw that as racist. Now, we're we're not going to throw anyone under the bus here or anything like that, and it would kind of be irresponsible of us journalistically to just get your side of the story and not an Ashland side. But I think what I'd like to do is, to use that kind of as a jumping off point to have a broader conversation about, about race and race relations. Noah, we kind of pride ourselves on talking to high school kids about things that aren't necessarily high school football, and this seems like a pretty good opportunity.
Yeah, I think we owe it to our listeners to talk about more than just the X's and O's and individual plays called on the field. And honestly, I think that's what brings us here every week as well. We get really excited to get to have real conversations.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about social media responsibility with Clay Caudell, a few weeks ago, and we talked about gun control with Jared Schaefer after what was his name? Sean Christie. It was the fugitive who was on the run.
Fugigitive.
We talked
really ruined my week that week.
We talked about head trauma a few weeks ago with Jeb Grover at Lucas, and last week we talked about the Colin Kaepernick controversy with Mitch Pittman, who's a guy who's going into the military and has some pretty strong feelings about service to his country, and so that sort of thing. So. So you met him a little earlier. I have a son. He's from Guatemala. We adopted him when he was 9 months old, and he's been raised by a white mom and dad since then. That said, I worry he'll get discriminated against because he is Latino. Have you ever found have you found yourself in situations where you feel like there's discrimination because you're an African American?
I mean, I haven't really found a particular situation, but sometimes when you go places that are predominantly white areas, you can kind of feel it a little bit.
Right.
But I've never really experienced something that was particularly racist towards me.
And when I was, I touched on a little, when I was an athlete, the only thing that really mattered to me was winning, for better or for worse, I think. And I'm certainly not alone when I'm not the only athlete who's ever felt that way. To that end, if you could help the team get to where we wanted to go, it didn't much matter to me what color your skin was or what religion you practiced or your sexual orientation or anything like that. Do you feel athletes are more tolerant, I guess, when it comes to race or religion or sexual orientation because we're all in it together and we're all trying to get to the same place?
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you said, if you can contribute something to our team in any way to help us win and reach our goals, then it doesn't matter what race or anything that you are.
Yeah, and I always used to say that the ball doesn't lie. I mean, if you can put the ball in the basket, it didn't matter to me one way or the other, anything about that. I don't think that's unusual. That's why I kind of feel that athletes are out in front when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I would hope so. But you also sort of hear about NFL players like Richie Incognito, who's just disgusting comments towards African American players, and then there's the Michael Sam not getting drafted, and so I think maybe it's bad apples out of the whole bunch, but definitely there are certainly certain moments where you're kind of like, oh, we're maybe not as far as I thought we were as a nation.
Right. Now, as an athlete, I mean, you're a basketball player too, and we were talking a little bit off the air. You and Tyler Gross were both junior varsity basketball players then, and you were not your typical junior varsity power forwards. I mean, you guys are both 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", weigh 250 pounds. You move real well. And it was always very funny to me to watch to watch you guys bang up against guys who were considerably smaller in junior varsity games. I mean, what's that like? I mean, just as an aside, I mean, when you're going up against guys who are that much smaller than you, I mean, is it? I mean, from where I was sitting, it looked like you were men among boys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was pretty easy, obviously, to just go out there and pose your will pretty much when people were smaller.
Now, as an athlete, I mean, do you kind of feel it's your responsibility to be a leader? If we're talking about race, or anything else. I mean, there's a lot of people in the school who look up to you guys, and there's a lot of little kids who look up to you guys. I mean, you're kind of role models. I mean, is that something you take seriously?
Yeah. I think as an athlete and a role model, you could use your platform to influence people's decisions and help them make better decisions as people and not to view things like that.
We were talking about Colin Kaepernick last week with Mitch Pittman. He was going to go into the what was it, Air Force or the Air Wing?
I believe it's the Air National Guard. He'll be stationed out here at Lom Airport.
Yeah, he basically was talking about how he doesn't necessarily enjoy the fact that there are people kneeling, but he 110% agrees with people having the right to do so.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts or opinions on the whole controversy that's sort of been formed out of Colin Kaepernick's kneeling?
In my opinion, I think with what's going on in America with like the police brutality and things like that, like I said before, it's important to use your platform and take light to what's going on and shine light on the situations. And I feel like that he wasn't purposely trying to be disrespectful towards like people in the military and things like that by kneeling, but I feel like people just took it the wrong way, and maybe that could have sparked it.
Well, I feel like people didn't take it the wrong way. They forced it into something that it wasn't.
Right. I mean, and we talked about that a little bit last week. It seemed like that whole situation, that conversation got hijacked very, very early in the process, and all of a sudden it wasn't about protesting what he saw as social injustice. It was about you're disrespecting the national anthem and by extension everyone who's served the country, and that to me it never was supposed to be that, but that's for whatever the reason that's what it kind of turned into. Now last week I covered the game. I didn't see a lot of the things that were going on, so I didn't know a lot about the situation. But by the time I got back to my office to write my story, it was blowing up on social media. There were pictures posted. The conversation was heated, and it was going real strong.
Yeah.
The Tyger football Twitter account was tweeting at Richland Source and other area medias, so that would be hard to miss out on.
Right, and I don't think that Coach Bradley is responsible for that. I don't know who runs the Twitter account. And
it couldn't have been Bradley because he had a game to coach.
Right. I'm not sure who did that.
Right.
Nonetheless, social media is something you guys have grown up with. It's something you probably have to be hyper aware of. I mean, do you have to really think about everything you say and do? Because everyone has a video recorder in their pocket now, and they can tape everything that's going on. Is that something you have to think about?
Yeah, because it's pretty much like no matter what you're doing, where you are, something and someone is always watching and recording. So just to be mindful of where you are and what you're doing.
What's your social media status or presence like? Are you a big social media guy or not?
No, I'm not really big on social media. I get on it a couple times, but I really social media is not really a big thing for me.
Well, good. That's let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. We'll go over some things that happened last week, game wise on the field, and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up. Can you stick around for a little longer?
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back with on West 4th and Goal. We'll take a break. Hold on. Hey, and welcome back to West 4th and Goal, a podcast for high school football fans in North Central Ohio. I'm Kurt Conrad, and we're here with Anthony Hawkins of Mansfield Senior. Anthony, it was a banner weekend last week for you guys to go over to Ashland and get yourself right back into the hunt in terms of a playoff. It's going to be tough to get into the conference championship race, given the first couple of weeks you guys lost. But that win, and coupled, and we talked a little bit about it off air. Cleveland Glenville was announced this week, who's another very good team in Division II, Region 10. They are no longer eligible for the playoffs this year because they used some ineligible players. They used some players they weren't allowed to use. So that rules them out this year. You guys, with Glenville factored into the equation, you guys were in 10th in the region. With them out, you move up to 9th. Lexington's one spot behind you in 10th. You have a big game coming up this week against a division, a Worcester team that's a division bigger than you and has 5 wins. Obviously you want to beat a conference team, but this will play you right back into the playoffs. What's it like this week in practice? How much emphasis are you? Is it even that much more important for you guys this week?
Yeah, this is definitely a huge week for us. Not only but for conference, but also for like to make or break our playoff dreams for this year. So definitely a huge game for us.
Right, and we talked a little bit to Clay about it when he was in here a few weeks ago. You guys, I think when your freshman year, you guys won 6 games, which was, for a lot of schools, a 6-win season's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of schools that would love to win 6 games a year. For you guys, I mean, you guys had an awful lot of success at the junior high level, I think. I mean, was that almost disappointing for you guys that year?
I mean, for me, it wasn't really disappointing. It was just really still figuring out high school football and what it's really about. So I think it was a pretty decent year for being all freshmen and really a brand new offensive line and things like that.
Right. Another big game coming up this week in the OCC is Lexington over at Ashland. Lexington's, they struggled early in the season. They've played very well recently. They're coming off a big win over West Holmes, a West Holmes team that you guys went to Millersburg and struggled with. They're at Ashland also. Ashland, they're in a division higher, and so it's almost a must-win for them if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. You've seen both schools. I mean, what are those? What do you think about that matchup?
I think it's honestly going to be a pretty good game with Lexington playing pretty good football as of late, and Ashland always being a pretty good football team year in and year out.
You guys, I mean, Ashland every year has a quarterback who throws for 2,000 yards or something crazy like that. I mean, what's it like preparing for a team like that last week, and how different is that than preparing for, some other teams that are a little bit more traditional with the run and pass mix?
The big emphasis on last week was to really get to the quarterback.
And you guys struggled with that down at West Holmes. A few weeks ago, talking to Coach Bradley after the game, he said, if we're going to play man defense with our defensive backs, we got to get pressure on the quarterback. And you guys were unable to do that. I mean, were there lessons that you picked up that night that translated, I guess, to this past week?
Yeah, definitely. And like they said, it always starts up front. So with us, we have to do our job, and that can be the difference between winning or losing a game.
Right. A couple big Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference games this week. Clear Fork, still unbeaten. Clear Fork, they haven't lost a regular season game since they moved to the Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference. They are 10-0 last year in the regular season, 7-0 this year, 4-0 in conference. They're at Ontario. Ontario has played a couple of really close MOA conference games these past 2 weeks, and they've lost both of them. I think Buckeye Valley a couple weeks ago was a 2-point game. Last week it was River Valley, I think, and it was a real close game too. At some point, maybe you're feeling snake bitten. When you continue to lose close games like that.
It's probably got to be so exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially, and you guys always seem to be in the hunt, so it's a little different for you guys. But if you're a team that doesn't have a conference championship or a playoff berth to play for late in the year, I would imagine it's hard to figure out a way to motivate those kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think even a different sport, but even in the MLB, as a fan, like when your team is knocked out of playoff contention, it's kind of like, well, why are we even doing this?
Right. Another big MOAC game, North Union, 5-2 overall, 2-2 in the conference, is at Gallion, 4-3, 1-3. Gallion scored a bunch of points against Clear Fork last week, and I think that surprised a lot of people. Now Clear Fork scored a bunch of points against Gallion. Clear Fork. I was doing another show, and I was doing some preparation work for that, and I wanted to see the last time Clear Fork scored 69 points last week. It was 69-35. I went back to the turn of the millennia, so we're talking 18 seasons. They had never scored 69 points in a game in that time. So I don't know if it's a school record, but it is at least they haven't done it in at least 18 years, which
in
is
this century.
Yeah, which is saying something. And Gallion scored 35 points against Clear Fork last week, and that might be the first time that anyone scored 35 points against Clear Fork. I would imagine Dave Carroll down at Clear Fork. He's a defensive guy. His brother's the defensive coordinator. They're both defensive guys. I would imagine they're going to get things buttoned up down there. Yeah. That said, that North Union team, they played Clear Fork earlier in the year, and Clear Fork ended up winning pretty comfortably. But I think it was a tie game going into the fourth quarter, and Clear Fork scored like 3 unanswered touchdowns. And I talked to Dave Carroll after that, and he said, no, that's that's a very good football team, and they're going to be good for a while because they got a running back who's a sophomore and who's probably going to be the conference's leading rusher for the foreseeable future. Shift gears a little bit. We'll go to the Northern 10. Cary is at Winford. For those people who listen to us, they probably know Winford and the Winford tradition. Winford goes to the playoffs every year. It seems like they're 5-2. They are sitting in right. If the playoffs started this week, they would be in Division 6, Region 22. They lost a conference game earlier in the year. I think it's the first time they've ever lost a conference game in that conference. There's a lot for the Royals to play for, and that's not a bad Cary team. Another game of interest for local fans is Colonel Crawford is at Bucyrus. I think you saw Bucyrus earlier in the year.
Yeah, I did. They were it was early on in the season, but they were struggling a little bit.
Right. And you haven't covered Colonel Crawford this year?
I haven't covered a lot of football this year. Ever since Richland Source got the artificial intelligence, I've gotten a lot of bye weeks, so to speak.
Well, enjoy those Friday nights off.
I've
heard of a
but
Friday
usually
night
it's
off.
because Larry is making me work on a Saturday.
Right on. In the Firelands Conference, a couple of games of local interest. Plymouth is at Mapleton, and Mapleton they lost their season opener. They won 5 in a row. They lost last week to Norwalk St. Paul, and there's no shame in losing to Norwalk St. Paul. If you know anything about small school football around here, Norwalk St. Paul is small school royalty. They've played in I don't know how many playoff appearances. They're there every year. Anyhow, Mapleton lost that game. They host Plymouth, and Mapleton is actually sitting really in a really good spot in terms of playoff consideration. I think they are second in their region. They're in Division 7 and Region, I think, 25. That's a big game for them in terms of playoff positioning. Another team locally that people might have some interest in is Loudonville. They play in the Principals Athletic Conference, which is, and they're a football-only member, but that's a conference that's based largely in, I think, Summit County or up near the Akron area. They play Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy. Loudonville is 4-3, but they are still very much alive in playoff contention for a spot in Division 6, Region 22 with Winford and Hillsdale. It's another team that's got a big game this week. Hillsdale, I think, is second in that region. They host Dalton, who struggled a little bit. Dalton was very good last year, and they have struggled here recently. So, if Hillsdale wants to maintain its spot, they need to win these games that they should. At least on paper, they should win. And one game locally that's going to be played on Saturday, Cincinnati-Aiken is making the long trip up to play Lucas. And this is one of those things when we had Jeb in here a few weeks ago, Jeb Grover, we talked about Lucas is an independent, so they have to play whoever they can play. And if that means going to the Ohio River, that's what they do. And in this case, they're having Cincinnati-Aiken, who's 5-2 in a Division 4 school that's considerably bigger than Lucas. They're coming up here. And when we talked to Jeb, it was something that they worried about a little bit is when you play those big schools.
There's no guarantee that you'll get to play a full season. Is
yeah.
that what you're gonna say? Sorry, I guess it.
No, absolutely that, and it's those bigger, stronger kids.
Right.
When I talked to Scott Spittler a few weeks ago, he said it's kind of like a MASH unit down here because we're playing all these big schools with big physical kids that we're not necessarily used to playing division, as a Division 7 school. And it takes its toll. So hopefully the Cubs, who are very much alive in playoff contention, they can get healthy and get a win here.
Yeah, I think that it also, of course, helps them come playoffs time, though. I think that playing up is definitely a benefit as opposed to playing down.
Right, absolutely. And two, you can probably talk a little bit about that. You guys played a really good Maple Heights team. I would imagine that you're not going to see anything if you play yourself into the playoffs. You're not going to see anything in the Division 3 playoffs that you haven't seen on that night.
Yeah, there was definitely a well-rounded, physically tough team, and I think they're actually pretty ranked in the state.
Yeah, I still think they're still unbeaten. I think they're 7-0 in Division 2. They're certainly in the hunt for a playoff, and that's a team that you guys beat last year. And I wasn't there, but from everything I understand, you played with them pretty well that night.
Yeah, we did our best, and then it just came down to the end. We were kind of outmatched in that one.
Right.
Did you leave that game though feeling, or I guess taking anything away for an improvement on the season?
And I think to just keep our heads up in it, and like a loss like that to a good team like that will happen occasionally.
Sure.
And just to keep going and build off of that.
And things have worked out for the Tigers here. If they, like we said, if they are able to beat Worcester at home this week, they will be right back in the hunt. So we wish you well this week, and we certainly appreciate you coming down this week and spending some time with us. And that's going to do it for this week. So thanks for listening to West 4th and Goal, and join us again next week.
Thanks, guys.